Thank you very much. I'm really honored to be here talking to a bunch of product marketers. This is my first time at this event. I'm really excited to be here. Coming from Toronto, I was hoping for a lot of great weather. I brought my shorts, but unfortunately, I might have to go in the tub with that with some hot water right now. So my session today is about the product marketing wave and what it really means to be a product marketer in a growth tech organization. And I really actually, as I hear a bunch of different people speak about their experience in product marketing, it's really interesting to see the different backgrounds everyone has come from and the different types and sizes of organizations and how their problems change based on those things. I'm just curious, from everyone here, who's in an organization that's between 0 to 500 people in headcount, let's say? Wow, okay, that's actually a lot more than I thought. And let's say from 500 to 2,000? Okay, so there's this wide mix, and I think you're probably all sensing, coming off these presentations that everyone seems to have a little bit unique challenges and problems they face depending on the size of the organization. So I did want to talk about, so that's me, Sondren. I did want to talk about a little bit of my background, which I was an accountant before, so you can tell I'm very excited to be actually in product marketing. I think we have such a unique and cool job. And I started getting into marketing through a small business and a YouTube channel, and then went over to Microsoft. I worked 3 years there, and then another company called Intellect Technologies, and then now at Kira Systems. At Kira, we are an AI, artificial intelligence company that actually extracts data points, provisions, and clauses out of your contracts and documents. Think about if you're a marketing professional, you get in those lead forms, and and that's structured data, but your contracts are not structured. How do your legal teams get any of their information? They have millions of contracts. It's a scary thought. So we help solve that problem. But in my experiences in product marketing at Intellect and at Kira, I've had to come into an organization where product marketing wasn't a thing. They just, I came into a role, came in with a blazer, and they said, all right, what events are we doing? And I said, okay, there's a little bit more to marketing than just events and socks, which is actually very important too. From that at Intellect and then at Kira. So at Kira, I came in, I think it was about 120 employees. Now we're over 200, and about a year we grew double. And Intellect's the same story. There's a lot of growth there. So I want to talk about some of those challenges and pains, and I hope that this can help, especially if you're coming from a large organization where I've interacted with many product marketers at Microsoft, going into a smaller organization, or maybe some of these tips and lessons that I've learned will help you in your journey. So the reality of product marketing and growth tech. So this is really cool. If you go to this slide here, we see that this is the balance we see for product marketers is you're in this intersection of product, sales, customer success, and marketing. So this looks really cool, and it's all neat, and everything works out. But the reality is that that's actually not the case. Oh, my animation didn't work. The way it's actually in growth tech is that you're actually in this shift or in this wave that's happening between these different parts in sales, in marketing, and product and customer success, where you're kind of interacting or dealing with the short-term goals of the business right now, but you're also thinking about the long-term aspects. One example, you may come into an organization where sales enablement collateral is not even built out. I came in an organization where even the logo on our PowerPoint presentations is pixelated. I'm just like, oh, no. Or you may be focusing on more marketing, where it's like, all right, your marketing team is being built out, but you don't have every function in your marketing team working and ready. So you're having to lean in more to go ahead to meet those short-term and long-term goals. And then on the product side, this maybe you're in an organization where you have recurring product launches. We see the minimum viable change product releases, or it could be some of those big product releases, and you're dealing with them to actually go to market with that product launch. There's a lot of challenges in this space, especially when you think about what the actual state is in the ideal state versus the reality, and that you're a new role and you enter this arena. So when I came into both organizations, it's like, okay, what's the difference between you and digital marketing and PR and events? Like, what do you do? Like, what do you mean you interact with us? It's really common knowledge for all of us, but especially in a growth tech organization, it's not really known well, and typically a product marketer is hired once they've decided to invest and build out core marketing functions in the organization. So you're always having to educate the organization on what you do. Incomplete teams, so this is where you're kind of ending up that Venn diagram, that's in a kind of a perfect scenario, but you're going to be shifting across all these different aspects in the organization to kind of meet those short-term gaps. But you're also going to have to start thinking about, okay, I need to give the organization what it needs now, but also think about the long term, right? And this and that, there's never enough time. This is especially true. So I've been at Kira for about 9 months, but it feels like I've been there for 2.5 years already, because just the amount of work that's being done to actually build the foundation of all this stuff that a lot of times you maybe take for granted, right? You come into an organization and you think, all right, what's on my plate? A little shout out to HighSpot. So when I joined the current company I'm at, it's like we had a huge problem with versioning and control of documents. What's the latest PowerPoint deck? What's the latest brochure or collateral use case stuff? I've implemented HighSpot. That's helped significantly. Actually, the sales teams have loved that. So yeah, this is the actual reality. Oh, there it is. All right, so you see that. So it's just shifting across, and you're just trying to do everything to make everyone happy. You're trying to build that early rapport. But this is kind of what it looks like in the beginning as you build out those other functions in marketing. And this couldn't be any more true than what I'm doing now. So when we think about identifying these organizational goals, short and long term, we need to end up planning for both. So for example, now we're in FY20, but we as a marketing team, we have a bunch of goals. Lead generation. What are our top line leads that we want to generate? How many MQLs do we want to generate? I know the MQL is kind of dead. So pipeline influence, right? What does that look like? Pipeline creation. Your close rates. This is where we come in a lot in terms of once a deal is actually qualified, how fast you can get that pipeline across your pipeline, the velocity. And then marketing new ARR or your booking rates. So those are the goals. All right, so I'm just one product marketer at the time when I joined. How do we do that? Okay, so I'll take on demand gen too. I'm gonna kind of incubate that, and you just kind of lean in. And this is actually, honestly, a great thing. A lot of people might say, oh, this is more work. This is just, tedious. I have to go do all this extra stuff when I don't have the bandwidth to do my own current job. But this is part of what you're going to experience, and you're going to need to embrace this. So you end up learning a lot. So in the last 9 months, hired up an amazing team of product marketers and so on demand gen to help that. Someone mentioned as well in another presentation that content marketing sometimes does fall into product marketing because you're the expert of the product and the industry and the persona. So you understand what kind of topics you want to be talking about as you build up demand. So that's kind of come into role now at Kira. Yes, so what I want to do is talk about the learnings of giving the organization what it wants now while giving it what it needs in the future. So this is something that I've experienced in both of my last 2 organizations where, we come into a role, and typically if you get seed investment, that's potentially one way, is that right away you start having goals, right? What are your short-term goals for this year? What do we need to get to? You come into role, you don't even know what the industry is about. So I came into Kira. Did I ever talk to a lawyer before? Absolutely not. I don't know anything about lawyers. So one thing that we had to really think about and do is, all right, what am I going to do in the next 30, 60, 90 days to kind of hit these short-term requests that people are messaging me about? We need a partner enablement kit. We need a bunch of use case brochures. We need PowerPoint presentations to help on that side. But then on the other side, it's like, okay, we need to drive top of funnel leads, right? To put it in our content marketing engine. We need to build out a nurture campaign, right? We need to drive actual MQLs and people wanting a demo right now. A lot of these things. So really working with your peers, and this is extremely important that even in these smaller organizations as you grow, you include product, you include your sales leaders, you include your customer success leaders in this discussion and letting them know what your plan is short-term and long-term. You need to be able to do this. That's the only way you're going to actually get buy-in from the organization. One thing that I learned, it was a lesson for me, is I came into role thinking, all right, what I'm doing, people understand what we're doing. The reality is a lot of times people don't understand what you're doing, and you need to make it very clear. So as I started going on that mission, not just educating everyone on what a product marketer is or what does the product marketing team do, what is demand generation, it's more about being very transparent and working with sales. As you guys know, there's no success for us as product marketers without the success of sales, right? You're not going to be successful without them closing deals. And they're not going to be successful without us generating leads and helping them push pipe down the funnel. So really important lesson I learned is that you really need to do that and think about how you get that buy-in across the organization on your short and long-term goals. Lesson 2. So this was a very tough lesson for me because I'm always the type of guy that's thinking about what do I need to do next? Like, what can I do? And this was my first time managing a team at Kira. So this was a very big learning experience. I've been used to, this all needs to be done. All right, I'm going to be the guy to do it. But when you come into you're looking to build a house and the foundation's not even set, how do you build, someone wants a chimney right now, but you don't even have the foundation in place. What can you do to scale, especially if you're the sole product marketer? You're the only product marketer. What are you going to do? So some things I kind of learned, and I'll put this up here, is that you need to operationalize your internal resources. So there was no real practice around process of how to do things. A product launch, there was no process about a product launch. Building that process for a product launch, understanding roles and responsibilities around the organization. You need to be able to operationalize your internal resources. The other one is to augment internal gaps. So a lot of the times you may end up saying a different part of your organization is blocking you or slowing you down in your execution and putting things out there, right? You need to be able to identify those gaps and you need to be able to say, you know what, we can augment this. Maybe we have to outsource some stuff, right, in the short term to make sure that we can go at speed. One of the biggest things that I'm always driving is that this notion of perfect inaction versus imperfect action. And that's something that I'm a strong believer in, is that you don't want to get caught up, and a bunch of other people have talked about this today. You don't want to get caught up on putting out something perfect. It's always an iterative process. So everything that we do is iterative. We put something out, put some comments on it. You're open to your sales team. You're open to your product team. We'll make adjustments. So that's something that I'm really a firm believer of. And then the continuous balance of internal and external resources. This is really important too, because as your organization changes, as your organization grows, we just doubled our headcount in under a year, and we're going to double it again potentially, right? You're going to have to reevaluate, what does that resource structure look like? What internal staff do you have now that you didn't have, right? What do you need to outsource versus not outsource anymore? So these are like really key learnings for me as a product marketer coming in to an organization that's growing, because I was always under this motion of executing by myself, doing it by myself, not really leveraging my internal resources and external resources potentially. So we know, and this is my the third lesson, so we know that product marketing is highly collaborative, but don't forget that includes execution, and I just talked about that. So embracing the wave, adopting to change and accepting change. This is something that is actually what I love about the job of product marketing, is that it's not necessarily the same thing that you're doing every day, right? And I think that changes as you get into larger organizations or you have a shift in organizations, and you'll see that. Just talking to a whole bunch of different friends that I have in the community and talking to a bunch of you, is that this can change over time, and that this is something that you should accept. Like demand gen, it's not my bread and butter, but I learned to make it my bread and butter over time. And that's just kind of what you have to do in these organizations where you're a small team and you're growing, and you end up learning a lot. So I am actually very proud and very happy to be a part of an organization that will allow you to learn and accept the fact that V1 is going to be one step, then you're going to get to V2. Then you're going to get to V3. And that imperfect action we talked about is also in your personal development, not just in the assets or collateral that you create. So yeah, so riding this wave will take you on this accelerated learning pace, and it's actually helped me significantly in my career, not just through my coaches and mentors and my bosses from Microsoft, from Intellex, from Kira that has helped with this, but I think especially if you think about, there's this analogy about the T-shaped marketer. I don't know if any of you guys have heard this. Yes? Essentially where you're really focused on being an expert in one thing, and in order to actually become a full-fledged marketer, you need to have that functionality into what's happening, just not inside of your role, but outside. So digital, PR, events, and how that all actually comes together. This is gonna allow you to actually be way more successful. I think the analogy was, I think Thais mentioned that she sees product marketing as like the sun in the solar system, which I thought was really cool. I look at product marketing, I'm a big sports guy, as kind of like the quarterback on the football field. You have your product team that's on the microphone telling you, okay, what play you got to run. You go out there, you're directing, and you know what your O-line is doing. You know where your wide receivers are running to, right? You're reading the competition on the other side, the defense, and you're making adjustments on the line. So maybe that's why I love what I do, because I'm trying to relate it to some sports that I love. But I think we actually have an amazing job. I think being here in front of all of you and just seeing the talent and the experiences has been really eye-opening, and I'm really blessed to be here. I can't wait to see you guys all in Toronto if you're coming. We'll actually have better weather there than we have it here, which is kind of funny. But yeah, that's my presentation. I hope this helped you. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn to chat. I'll be around here as well. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. And do we have any questions for Sandra?
Hey, you mentioned that this is your first role as a leader in the organization, and in these growth type businesses, when you're in that growth mode, how do you find the right candidates to hire?
Oh yeah, so that's a really good question. I think especially, and again, I was an accountant, right? I was in a completely different field before, and my passion was just in marketing. So what did I do? I was just learning naturally from my small business, from my YouTube channel. And these are the things that when I was hiring, I'm actually looking for. Most of my team is just out of school, maybe one stint in a job. What I was looking for is that capability or wanting to learn. Right? I think what makes our job unique is that as long as you have that ability or wanting to learn and that drive to always learn and be successful and not being scared to fail. Everyone fails. I failed repeatedly. But understanding how you can adopt to that failure and change, I think is important. I'm looking for people that just want to learn, that are hungry for learning.
Any other questions for Sandra?
First of all, I want to say excellent presentation.
Thank you.
And two, the fact that you use a football analogy, I love it. When I do that, I get the text about, why couldn't it be a hockey analogy? But yeah. I really enjoyed that. So in terms of your organizational structure, does your team report directly to a VP of marketing or a CMO? What does that look like for your
Yeah, so our marketing team at Kira, for example, 9 months ago was 4 people. Now we're 16 people, and we have 4 different groups that report into the SVP of marketing. So product marketing and demand gen, events and public relations, digital marketing and operations, and marketing analytics and strategy. So that's kind of what we built out. You'll notice the product marketing and demand gen in the same boat. A lot of organizations, demand gen is actually a very specialized skill set, right? And that requires a different team. But again, in a growth organization, you don't necessarily maybe find the talent you're looking for at the time, et cetera. You need to do these things now. The business is not going to wait until you potentially hire up for that.
Other questions for Sandra?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sandra.